with l'interviste here in Bergamo, Città, Impresa. We have the big pleasure to have here with us Eric Quint. You have a very long title. You had a very long title since you are former senior vice president, chief design and brand officer at 3M.
Correct.
So congrats for the title, first of all. But now, author. And so here in Bergamo as an author as well.
Sure.
Okay, cool. It's a pleasure to have you here.
Thank you.
Well, first of all, can you introduce yourself, your career in a nutshell, and also your last company, 3M, since I think it may help us to understand also your book and why you're here at the festival.
Sure. So, first of all, when I was exploring possible careers when I was in high school, I had a typical challenge, like many of the young kids have, being interested in many different areas. So I was playing a lot of music and jazz.
Oh, really?
And yes, and so I like to improvise. And then the other thing is I was into technology and arts. And so what are you going to do if you are in all those three areas, very passionate? And so I needed to have some help and some evaluations going on by professionals. And one of the professionals suggested to me, why are you not going to study industrial design? Because that is a kind of a fusing of technology and art. And yes, and I thought, okay, well, that sounds interesting. In that time, design was pretty new. And I'm talking about maybe in the late 70s.
Late 70s, okay, cool.
And okay, and I thought, okay, music is really my passion. Maybe it's not good to make your profession out of that, because then you can fill it in the way you want and go with the flow. You don't have to make money with it, and no big responsibilities. So I decided to go to first do a mechanical engineering course, and with an industrial engineering specialization in there. And after that, I went to the Academy of Arts to do and study design. And so my first role was as a designer, product designer, in Philips, a well-known innovation company. And there I had the luck to become part of a huge international creative organization where we had 20 nationalities and many flavors of design going on. Where as a young designer is the best way to learn. And so my whole life was an international career in many different cultures, managing teams and leading transformation as well. In Philips, I was able to grow through the ranks and be design leader in different businesses, from B2B to consumer to personal care, and also to drive new business development and startups for Philips. And partnerships was also as a kind of a red thread to all my career. So Philips was growing a lot. I was part of the management team to grow the team, I think, from probably 150 designers worldwide to 500 designers worldwide. My role was particularly focused on account management and partnership development and consultancy, because we started a design consultant within the company to external parties. And one of the reasons we did that is to generate additional revenues that we could reinvest into the development of the capability, which was a good thing for the company as well.
And to spread the culture, I suppose.
And sure, brand was an important thing as well. And then after so many years in the company, the company was having some challenges and was doing quite some divestments as well. And so it was time to look for other opportunities. And I got the great opportunity to move for 8 years to the US, lived in the US in Minneapolis, and became actually the first chief design officer for the company, which was a bit of a challenge, also a big opportunity, because it was giving me, a kind of an opportunity to drive creativity and design for the company worldwide. So I ended up in 3M and did a lot of amazing projects.
As a process engineer, I use a lot of Post-its, so I'm pretty a fan of 3M.
Yeah, sure.
So, what about your last role in 3M? Some projects you followed?
Well, one of the first things, if you get a simple job challenge, was like, okay, Eric, can you help us to drive creativity and design throughout the global corporation as a competitive platform for driving innovation and brand? Okay, that's one sentence, and if you look deeply into it, you think, okay, where to start? And so one of the things I did was, in the first 2 weeks, I made a kind of a roadmap for laying out my vision of how I would drive my journey. Because, I didn't want this to become an endless journey. Because I had a particular age, and also I had an idea of doing the job in 5 years.
Oh, wow, cool.
That's a bit my mantra, because you can see all the jobs that I had in my life were after 4 or 5 years I get bored and I want to explore new opportunities. And I think being shorter than 1, 2, 3 years in there, you cannot drive impact. So the 5 years, 4 or 5 years thing fits my style of leadership very well. And so I thought, okay, let's make a 5-year roadmap to explain immediately upfront to the company what my idea is, because the company actually didn't know what it means to integrate design and creativity into their massive international company. Because the discussions that I had was very much like, if you hire a design leader, this is not a job in a sideline where the leader is developing a team and then they do nice designs. This is actually how the company works. If we start to integrate creativity and design throughout all the business processes, the company is need to have and to adapt and transform into another way of thinking about innovation and brand. And so you can imagine that yes, they hired a design leader with a lot of experience, international experience. But hey, I was pretty serious about making a transformation in the company. And that had, of course, as consequence that I needed to be sometimes the kind of rebel, which I like very much to be in big organizations, be rebellious on challenging the status quo of the organization.
Can you give us a couple of practical examples on how your work impacted 3M and its design approach?
Yeah, so in order to get investment going, you need to show, don't tell. That's my approach, very simple. Huh? And so what we did is I was certainly not all over the place, because my team, I started with 20 people. And I finished off with 200 people in the company. Wow. In 5 different locations. And so what happened was that, for instance, if I saw great opportunities of projects coming along, particularly, for instance, in healthcare, I was very much going with the flow, because it doesn't make any sense to try to force fit design into a business while the business owner is not very engaged into design, or when design is not very say a critical factor.
Okay, yeah.
So healthcare was a big one. And I remember one of the first things we did is they had a product that was called the information matrix, used in hospitals to monitor the flow of costs and investment. Mm-hmm. And that was a kind of an intelligent system, but was designed by engineers.
Okay, yeah.
So what happens is nobody was using it because it was too complex, not intuitive, and so on and so on.
User-friendly. Yeah.
So my designers were, I put my designers onto it, worked together with the marketeer and the R&D person, and yes, we changed completely the paradigm of development, because the way they were normally developing was very much like, let's do, an idea, prototype it. And then we research it in the marketplace, and then we learn, and then we do cycles. And these cycles were, 3 months. And I said, no. In user interface, we do cycles of a week.
Yeah.
So we changed that paradigm, and we did it for 6 weeks. And we came up with great insights. Started to design to the eyes of the designer the interface and the whole system. And then we started to test pilot the system into the marketplace among 10 hospitals.
Okay.
And we run the system for 1 month. And we identified 1 billion of potential cost savings across those 10 hospitals.
Wow. That's
so
impact.
that was a huge impact. And so the system flew off, and we got a lot of traction. We also got a Design Value Award by the Design Management Institute for all of this work. So one example, which is on upfront and managing growth. Another example was we were doing all the packaging and labeling of the company, which is a huge deal with all these hundreds of products, thousands of products, was all running through the desks of my designers. And we were thinking, okay, can we take the advantage of building a system around it and rationalize the suppliers, because there were 40 suppliers in there. Can we go back to 1 or 2, because that's much better pricing deals that we can make. So we did. We used a very advanced system for monitoring and managing and reviewing and approving all of these labelings and packagings, because in the healthcare system there's a regular things in there. Huh?
Your customers and
so we rationalized from 40 to 2 suppliers, did all the things we do, implemented a global system, and we had an annual cost saving of say 30 to 60 million that we brought to the company. So that was the role of designers, using their system thinking and their approaches in the design area to do cost savings.
To impact the company.
Yeah,
that's good. But then you wrote a book.
Yes.
A book about design leadership. And you're here at the festival since the book was still is translated in Italian, right?
Yes.
Okay, so what about the book?
Well, as you probably feel that I had to improvise and pioneer a lot in my role, because design leaders on, executive level, there were not a lot. I think I was probably one of the first 5 in the world, installed in a chief design officer's role in a large international organization.
Yeah.
So you have to learn a lot and fail a lot and start to experiment a lot. And so at the end of my career at 3M, I thought, okay, why not writing a book about it? Because can I help the next generation of design leaders to become better and more fearless? Huh? And so I started to team up with 2 academics, because I didn't want to write a book about myself. It's
not just a diary.
There are too many books where people write 400 pages about themselves. And so I thought, no. Let's interview 60 other design leaders around the world and see whether we can recognize common themes, and then enrich all of that with my experience, and then come up with approaches and models and suggestions of how you can manage all of that. So the book is a summary of actually, in a nutshell, what I learned over my career, but also particularly applied in my role in 3M to scale a design function. Mm-hmm. Scale, by the way, not only in quantitative, but also qualitative, because it is not only about the number of people that you have in the end, but it is also where you impact, how you impact, and in what kind of ways you can even drive transformation for the company.
Can you give us a couple of takeaways from the book? So, a couple of hints.
Yeah, so one of the takeaways is, and I remember that the 60 leaders interviewed were very much, frustrated.
Mm-hmm.
And the reason why is that they felt not understood, not recognized, and they were not making the progress that they had in mind in an easy way. And so my first question to them was, okay, but have you ever explained what design is about in your company? Because it starts all with, explaining what you do and how you work and what the added value of it all.
Not just a name. Yeah.
No. So that was one of the things, but then in the discussions we also find out that, like any leadership role, it's a balancing act. You have many leadership characteristics that you have to balance, because there's no black and white in leadership. You have to continuously adapt to a new context, new situations, and start to bring the best as a leader out. For instance, as a designer, you want to have maximum freedom in creativity, but at the other hand, you also have rules of the game in terms of brand guidelines, for instance, and you need to stick to the rules as well. And so how are you going to manage that and motivate your team to find out what the best level is on the scale there?
I suppose it's like in music, as you mentioned, something that I used to say is that the standards help you to improvise.
Sure.
So probably in creativity, using creativity in data design, you may think in this similar way. Huh?
Yeah, but also it is, I remember I was interviewed in the first week to get introduced to the wider company. And so there was a video interview, and they asked me about my leadership style. And I said, well, my leadership style is very much inspired by jazz and by improvisation. And so I used the analogy by saying, it's great to have a sheet of music and then play exactly the notes the way it is written down. And then hopefully in an orchestra you can make great music. But that's not my style. My leadership style is I give the key of the music, I give the rhythm of the music, and you guys, you have to sort it out. Let's go and jazz it. So that was very often used in my team when the team had questions for me and wanted me to decide on things. I said, I always gave the answer, you guys, you have to jazz it. Go for it, explore, use the best of you, and then I will help you to
solutions.
Do yeah.
So not a big band, more a quintet probably.
It is improvisation. But so that's on leadership style, and of course you are as a leader have to create a culture of creativity in the organization. So in the book we have created a model with 10 stages. That the first stage, 3 main stages, but 10 building blocks, and the 3 main stages are very much, hey, if you start a journey like this, you need to first focus on the fundamentals. It doesn't make to go very advanced in your design approaches if your foundation is not there. So foundational work needs to be done. So that means you need to define the governance.
Absolutely.
How are we engaging with each other? What are the investments in design? Who is reporting into design? So that was one of the things we found out through the research, that many of these design leaders never talked and thought about first setting the foundation and agreeing within the company and the CEO about what is the model of governance that we are going to.
That's common to many areas, by the way.
Yeah, sure. Yeah, that's I see it in many areas indeed. Actually, to give you an example of how our approach became a kind of an inspiration to the rest of the company, when we got a new CEO, we were involved in rethinking all the functions of the company and how to, further mature them. And so I thought, I just have all done this, so I have to do it again? And then the CEO said to me, no, Eric, you're done. We use your example as an example for the other functions to get their act together. And so the design team had defined their foundation, their governance, their processes, their integration on a very sophisticated way that became then the example for marketing and branding and many other functions in the company. So you see here that design in the end is getting involved in many areas, but coming back to the model, foundation first. But then you can start to scale, because you need to make sure that you have enough of the right capabilities in the exact appropriate places in the world. You need to have your processes being aligned. You need to do actually all the work that any function needs to do in a big company. And then the third phase is the phase of excellence. So I was there to drive design excellence to advance the brand and enhance innovation. And so that's another thing. The company is very often, and many companies are very much thinking about design as a way in the fuzzy front end to do technology conversion and help them bringing new technologies in meaningful ways to the marketplace. That was only 20% of my time and my team, because the brand experiences around all of that, everything around the brand experience is designed. If you look to Apple, the package, the shop, the interfaces, the interaction, it's all designed. And so I started to broaden the philosophy around design. And then suddenly, of course, I got 80% of my team involved in brand experience and driving brand. And so I started as a chief design officer, but all the successes that we created, and I did a rebrand for the company with the team as well. So I was asked to become the chief brand officer for the company as well, because they are so intertwined. Because it's a brand is about the manifestation of your brand to the marketplace. And so how do you manifest yourself? Through the way you present yourself. And that is through your designs and through the way you speak, your language, and through how you position your brand. And so we did another example of how we added value, although this was a tremendous collaborative effort with other functions. We redesigned the brand and introduced the brand, and then on the Interbrand ranking, we grow the brand value of the company in 5 years and doubled it from 5 billion to 10 billion. Which was a great thing for the company because in partnerships and investment, divestment areas, the power of your brand is very important.
Yeah. Absolutely. Well, we are running out of time, but absolutely it's the same what you're saying. You spoke a lot about your teams, on the team you managed. One of the values of Bergamo Città Impresa is that there is a lot of members of the younger generations here. So, in a nutshell, absolutely in a nutshell, can you give a couple of tips to these people approaching the new world, so the labor world probably in new careers?
Yeah, so it's nice that you say that, because my talk just a minute ago was with 60 younger people in the room, all young people. And also good, a lot of people with business studies. So that's what I like, because as a designer, you have to bring design to the business, and vice versa, business to design as well. But to young kids, I would say, if you explore your career, creativity is an important thing. And creativity goes far beyond design only, because I want to work with creative engineers and with creative scientists, even with creative finance people, although they have some rules of the game. But, if you are proposing a new business model, for instance, you need to have a financial person that can help you to optimize the business model and the value streams, otherwise it will not fly off. So creativity is an important thing. Another thing is make sure that you find a good mentor early in your career. And mentoring is extremely important, and they can be a multiplier in your career. And then the other thing is collaboration. Great things, and particularly the challenges we have nowadays in the world, stated by the United Nations Sustainability Goals, is going far beyond the situation that one single entity can solve it. It's an ecosystem things that we are into. So if you're not willing and able to collaborate across the boundaries of your own function, then probably it becomes a painful career. At the other hand, if you are able to collaborate and be respectful and trustworthy to different parts of the organization, you can have a lot of fun and hopefully create a lot of impact and value for the society.
And the fourth one is to listen to jazz, maybe.
Yeah, maybe. Why not? Yeah.
Well, thanks a lot, Eric.
My pleasure.
Absolutely interesting. Welcome again in Bergamo, and come to Radio Book.
Thank you.